Welcome to the Southeast Retirement Planners Podcast, where we will go beyond the balance sheet with our guests, not only to share from our personal experience as financial advisors of over 25 plus years, but also to learn from our guests about the issues and topics that are important to them. Our firm specializes in taking care of the financial plans for individuals and small businesses by helping our clients identify their individual goals and taking a conservative and ongoing approach to helping accomplish them. We are located in Hickory, North Carolina, and look forward to continuing to serve our clients and our community. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Welcome back to the Southeast Retirement Planners Podcast. I'm excited about our guest today. Just for those of you who are new to the podcast or just tuning in for the first time, we want to remind you to check out our website at seretirementplanners.com. That's got all the information that you need to know about how to contact us, as well as if you go on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to our channels. All that information is there as well, so you can keep up with the regular updates and information that we share with our guests. And today, I'm particularly excited to have a very good friend and influential person in our community for sure. Joining us today, Bill McBrayer from Lexington Home Brands is here today, and not just an old furniture factory worker, as you like to say, but you've been really a servant leader in our community for a long time. So I'm looking forward to catching up with you about some recent developments in your life, as well as just kind of getting a little bit of your history as well. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Bob. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess just by way of background, without getting into too many sordid details, you and I have been friends for a long time.
We have. Quite a while.
That's all you're going to say about that?
Well, I was just going to say, you and your lovely bride were our young friends. That's what we referred to you as.
I used
back
to be
in
a
the
young
day.
friend for people.
Yeah.
Now I'm not
now
a
you're
young
catching
friend
up.
anymore. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I was trying to think about this before we got together today. When you and I first started hanging out, our families were hanging out, and you had a young William and a younger Thomas, and I didn't have anybody except for Autumn.
Right.
And now we have a young William, and then two more. Well, times have changed.
Yeah. You trumped me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got you a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, golly, we hanging out on the deck and enjoying a glass of wine and a few beach trips here and there. And
Forgot about those.
yeah, there's
Try to forget about some of those.
yeah, there's a few details in there. We'll just keep them where they are. But we have been friends for a long, long time. So
Indeed.
a lot of history there, and a lot of great guidance and advice along the way, and certainly being able to have you all as a part of our lives. Your beautiful wife Laura has been the doctor, the nurse for our children for their entire lives, so that's been kind of fun too.
She is retired now.
That's right, she is retired.
Yes.
No, she retired and then unretired.
She retired and worked part-time, and then 40 years was up at her birthday in February.
Okay.
Not 40 years old, 40 in the business.
Yeah, well,
And she
you couldn't
decided,
tell the difference.
and she decided not to renew her license.
Okay, so she's all the way
officially
done.
retired.
Okay.
Yes. I am still working in the factory.
Yeah, of course, just slaving away. So, let's see. Before we tell me about what you do at Lexington now and what you've been doing. You've 28 years, is that right?
Just celebrated 28 years, October 10th.
Okay.
And I've done lots of things from day one, but now I basically look over the human resources, safety, and environmental and health side of the business for the upholstery plant up in Hildebrand.
Okay, so you're basically in the plant most days doing your HR duties and that sort of thing.
Yes. Try to get out in the plant as often as I can. But according to them, I walk around with my hands in my pocket. You know, I want your job.
You want my job?
No, that's what they say. I want your job.
They say
Why?
they
Well,
want
you
your
walk
job.
around with your hands in your pocket.
Yeah, because they're out there busting it.
Yeah.
They're making it happen.
Yeah.
So what, tell me about like a recent interaction, for example, that you may have had. Or you can't. I guess that would be an HR violation.
That's an HR violation.
So maybe you can't.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
So have you always been in HR with Lexington?
Started out with HR in Lexington, and then went to plant management, and that about ran me in the grave because that was a little more than I could chew. And I'm a people person.
So what was wrong with plant management?
Well, you got to know all facets of the business, and I know it enough to be dangerous, but I don't know enough to lead a group.
Okay.
So I was fortunate to get back into the HR side, and been there ever since.
Okay. So 28 years, is that where you started your career?
No, started my career with Classic Leather Incorporated here in town, another furniture company. Was there for 8 years. Prior to joining Classic, I was in the sporting goods business and worked with Shelby Sporting Goods right out of college. Of course, I took a long route of college, which you're aware of, and and after I left Shelby, well, prior to that, when I was going to Lenoir-Rhyne, I worked for Cooks Incorporated here in town
Sporting goods shop
when it first started. Yeah. And I'd travel to schools and places and sell uniforms, et cetera, and work in the store, the retail, because my dad was in retail, and that's just what I did.
What did your dad do?
He ran a Western Auto for 40 years. In the little town we're from, Forest City, Rutherford County. Yeah, about 8,000 people.
So,
or it was at the time.
Why don't we back up then? So you grew up in Forest City.
Correct.
And then you went to a small college before you eventually graduated from Lenoir-Rhyne.
Yes, I went to everything in Forest City was small at the time.
Right.
And I went to East Rutherford, graduated in 1976. And then I had two older sisters. And let me back up some more. My dad ran a Western Auto for 40 years. He did not graduate. He did not go to college. Mm-hmm. He signed up for the Army, worked in the South Pacific, or served in the South Pacific during World War II. And then when he came back, he finished high school.
Oh, wow.
And never went to college, went straight into the Western Auto business. My mother, out of high school, Doris, rest her soul, she went to Peace College in Raleigh. Now it's William Peace, and it's a 4-year school. Back then it was 2. She didn't graduate either. So both sisters, my older of the two, went to Lenoir-Rhyne for 4 years. The other one, 2 or 3 years younger, went to Montreat Anderson Junior College at the time up in Black Mountain because the older sister didn't want the younger sister at the same college she was while she was there.
Okay.
So when one graduated, the other one moved, it's a 2-year transfer to Lenoir-Rhyne. And then it was my turn. And so I went to isothermal because I was not an academic student by any stretch of the imagination. And I thought, I got to do something. I'll just go over here to Harvard on the Highway, as everybody calls it. And
so this is Isothermal Community College?
Yes. And
Harvard on the Highway.
Harvard on the Highway.
Okay.
I would venture to say 70% of the community colleges in the state are on the highway. So a lot of people call that.
Okay.
And I played basketball because I was fairly competitive in basketball back in that day. I made the team and went to practice, played games, skipped class. Went to practice, played games, skipped class. And after my 3rd year there, they asked me to leave. So I did.
It's kind of funny how things come full circle, though. Some recent re-engagement with isothermal in your life. We'll get to that in a little bit, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So then I went to work for Northwestern Bank.
Okay.
As a chaser. I'd call people and say, you need to pay up on that car. Or
that note's due.
Foreclose on your house. And that was not a very safe job for me. Threatened a lot. And I thought, I got to do something. And my parents were telling me, you need to go to school. You need to go to school. So reluctantly, I applied at Lenoir-Rhyne and went all 4 years. So, I've speak to groups. And I said, 3 years and 4 years, that's 7. College, best 7 years of my life. And so,
not a doctor.
Yeah, not a doctor, just a real BA degree. So anyway, that brought me to Hickory.
Okay. And you eventually made your way into manufacturing and ended up in the furniture biz.
Yes, I got a call from the president of Classic Leather, who was Gerald Tuttle, and he told me his wife had mention my name because I was so nice to her and their children when they'd come to Cook Sporting Goods to shop. So, it pays to, always put your best foot forward and good things will happen. And it did. And that started my career in furniture.
So with Lexington, then started growing your family and kind of stayed in that same role, really active in your church, really active in the community to some degree, but primarily, I think, focused on kind of raising your boys. Tell me a little bit about them.
Well, I have William Paul McBrayer III, as we refer to as Will. He is 30, will be 31 in February.
Oh, that's hard to believe.
Yeah. After going to Hickory High, he went to NC State, graduated in 4 years. That's quite an accomplishment because his daddy took 7.
Mm-hmm. He's ahead of the curve.
Yeah, ahead of the curve. He got a degree in natural resources and fishery science, and he moved out west to Wenatchee, Washington, worked for the State Department out there and a ski resort during the dead of winter. Met a beautiful young lady, Abby, who was born and raised in Wenatchee, and she'd gone to Montana State, and she wanted to get back into her master's, so she's at the University of Tennessee as we speak, getting her degree in landscape architect. And then they're going to be married next May out in Washington, and then when she finishes her degree in a couple years, then they'll move back to Washington where her sister is a partner in an architectural firm. And then Will's already been promised a job back at the fisheries. Yeah. So he's a salmon fish biologist.
Yeah, I've spent a little time with him. Actually, we got to fish together.
Yeah.
Your Will and my Will.
Right.
We got to go up to the mountains and fish together. I think it was probably last fall, a year or so ago.
And he's a guitar picker and a banjo picker and loves music.
Yeah. And Thomas
and
is a few years behind him.
Thomas is just turned, he will be 26 November.
Mm-hmm.
After he graduated from Hickory High School, he went to Appalachian State. And he, too, graduated in 4 years, still ahead of the curve.
They both almost lapped you, just two at a time.
They did. Oh, Lord. And then he went back and got his master's, an accelerated master's in public administration. And he is currently living in Raleigh, employed with the UNC system. He's the associate secretary for the UNC system, which I didn't realize till today. They not only look after the Board of Governors, they look after all the boards in the state and the hospital system and PBS. And,
I did not know that.
I didn't either until today. So he's got a pretty big job and good job, been in it a couple of years. And he is going to marry a beautiful young lady in December in Raleigh. She works at the General Assembly. And she's a Tar Heel grad. Won't hold that against her. Of course, I was a Tar Heel grad.
So this is on my notes to bring up.
Okay.
Because for a long time you were a Tar Heel guy.
And
until
Will went to State.
Then you started writing checks to State.
Yeah, and it's a whole different atmosphere, State versus Carolina.
Plus, you have a bit of a reputation about your checkbook and.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, it's
rumor.
It's known around town that you tend to be
frugal.
Frugal is one way to put it.
That's a good choice.
Tight.
Frugal.
Chintzy.
That's a good word.
I wouldn't say cheap.
No, my wife will argue with you that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some argument about that too.
Yeah.
Wayne Huddleston might say cheap.
Well, I wouldn't believe a word he says anyway.
That's true.
Yeah.
But you were a Tar Heel.
I was a Tar Heel.
And now you're not.
I was a Tar Heel since 1964 is my first memory of that.
Okay.
And I remember when Gerald Tuttle, the president of Classic Leather, who hired me there, played basketball at Carolina, and got to know all the, I can share stories from Carolina from way back, and then it just kind of turned. I mean, I like Carolina basketball a little bit, but I'm a State guy. But
turned into a State guy. Did you turn into a Mountaineer?
Oh yeah, big Appalachian guy.
Okay.
Yeah, love the Boone Goons.
Well, I think it's interesting, just kind of your arc of. We're gonna cover this a lot, I think, but your arc of service and from you call yourself just a factory worker, and obviously you've been in a leadership role there for a long, long time. So you're not just a factory worker. You happen to work for a great manufacturing company here in town.
Indeed, I do.
But at some point, in addition to being one of the, just known around the area as one of the very top performing rec department referees in your spare time, I know that's something you did a lot of.
32 years.
32 years of really a lot of blown calls, a lot of bad interactions with players and parents, kicking people out of church league basketball games. There's a whole history. That's
and 8 years of lacrosse also,
and 8 years of a lacrosse referee also.
Yeah. So, I'm a loved person.
Yeah. So that in spite of that, at some point from your early days in the furniture business, you started kind of shifting towards service to the community.
And I'll tell you the first time I did that. Let me back up and talk about my dad one more time.
Okay.
He was a JC, and I remember when he was a JC, and you get kicked out of JCs when you're 36, okay? So I remember that from way back, and I used to go to the Rutherford County Fairgrounds where they had an oval dirt track, and they'd race every Saturday night. They ran the concession stand, the JCs did, and I'd go with them there. So that was my first touch of service. Mm-hmm. Then he joined the Kiwanis, after they booed him out, and then you go to the Kiwanis. He was like 40 years in the Kiwanis, perfect attendance, and held office, presidents of JCs, president of the Kiwanis, et cetera. So I got a good taste of service back then. And the JC creed at the end, it says, service to humanity is the best work of life. So when I was at Classic Leather, Gerald Tuttle, again, I keep talking about Gerald, he was on the Recreation Commission, and he had served his term, and he says, why don't you get involved in that? I don't know anything about it. I thought, but I would. So I served I think he had a term that ran out, or he had to get off early. So I fulfilled his existing term, and then was reappointed to a 3-year term and another 3-year term. And city council does that. And there's lots of boards in town. If anybody wants to get involved, they're more than welcome, and we can use good people. So I ended up serving six years, and then I had to sit off. And while I was sitting off, I got called to serve on the library board, which is a very funny joke because I don't read at all. I'm lost in the library. I can't. My mother was a librarian for years. That's about all I know about it.
Didn't spend a lot of time in the old Rudisill Library at Lenore-Ryan.
No. My joke is the only time I found out where the Rudisill Library was when I had to go pick up my cap and gown.
Oh, there you go. Well, I actually had a date on the roof of that building at one point, but
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's not for public consumption.
So where was I?
Just when you started your time serving, when you started kind of getting plugged into the community.
Yeah. So my library board. Then after I served my 3 years on the library, they got me back on the rec. So I had 12 years of Recreation Commission and served as chair for a few years.
Now, when was everything now? I think once you start having kids, that's the only sort of time measurement. That was when my kids were this old or this old.
Right.
So when was this sort of in your?
Well, actually, it's before my kids were born.
Okay, so that was before.
That was in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and then they were born, and I was still on it. 12 years.
Okay.
So after that. Let me back it to my father again. He also served on the State Board of Optometry as a layman. Because when I tell people that, they say, well, he was an eye doctor. No, he ran a Western Auto.
He worked at an auto shop.
Yeah. But he was a governor appointee back, I don't remember when. I was old enough to drive, and I think I was in between colleges. And so I would drive him to Raleigh a lot of times for his meetings. And I'm thinking, that's pretty cool. Statewide office, governor appointee. And so I was a proud son, to have Dad on that board. And so then Brad Lale, who used to be on our city council, kept wanting me to be on the Hickory Regional Planning Commission. And I kept saying no because the Rec Commission and the planning board, way too different boards, way too different responsibilities, way too different levels of intense decision making, if you will.
Sure.
So I kept putting him off, and then finally one day he caught me at a weak moment. 17 years ago, he caught me at a weak moment. I just found out last night I've been on the board for 17 years, Hickory Regional Planning Commission.
Okay.
17 years, and I've chaired it for the past 2. So I grew up in service, and that's what I do.
So somewhere that sort of rubbed off on your son, Thomas.
It did rub off on Thomas. Thomas, I don't want to get political per se, but
he's been political since high school.
Yeah,
or maybe before. I don't know.
They called him the governor when he was in high school,
Okay.
and he wanted to be governor. And so his fiance is Phil Berger's L.A.
Okay.
And Phil Berger's the head of the Senate.
Yep.
But Thomas, I could do a whole segment on both those boys. But anyway, he went to work for Virginia Fox, 5th Congressional District, representative in Washington. Worked all 6 years while he was at Appalachian. Ran her campaign. He worked for the House of Representatives and her campaign office, so he had 2 different checks coming in that sustained him through Appalachian. And then she was going to have another campaign, and he was had his fill of the campaign, and she said, I want you to stay, but if you're going to leave, you need to kind of leave now so I can backfill you before the campaign starts.
Right.
So he chose to leave and get into something with the master's in public administration. He wanted to be in something more in that field, and so that's that. But yes, he was went to Washington twice or 2 or 3 times with her, and great experience. People that I see today, and I tell the story of him working for Virginia Fox, the first word out of their mouth, if they know her, is if he can work for her, he can work for anybody.
Really?
Yeah, because she's a bulldog,
Uh-huh.
So anyway, it's a great training ground for him.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And so your experience with the planning board, 17 years now, at what point did you start getting involved with community colleges? I know that's a big part of your engagement these days.
I got involved with community colleges when we started the Furniture Academy, actually.
Which you were one of the founding members. So tell us a little bit about what is that, the Furniture Academy?
Well, the Furniture Academy it's an academy at Catawba Valley Community College, and even in 2012, just as in 2022, good help was hard to find, and especially skilled labor. Today, you can't even find labor. Back then, you couldn't find skilled labor. So we decided there were 5 companies that went in together, along with CVCC, Century, I hope I don't miss anybody, Century, Sherrill, Vanguard, Lee, in Lexington. No, in Lexington. That's
Okay.
the 5th. Duh.
Okay.
And so we wanted, we set it up for 7 disciplines, inside upholstery, outside upholstery, spring up, pattern making, sewing, cutting, automated cutting. And we just started this academy. And
So this was 2012.
we started working on it in 2012. The doors opened January 6th of 2014.
I mean, if people can understand, people from our area know this is this area, Hickory, the Unifor, has been known as kind of the furniture capital of the world. I think maybe now people see High Point maybe as that, even though there's just a lot of history of great furniture companies, big family-owned companies that manufacture a tremendous amount of furniture. And then late 90s into the 2000s, a lot of the furniture manufacturing started going overseas. Mm-hmm. And your population of skilled labor, and I don't know if that's a fair way to describe it, but people who have a very unique skill of being furniture builders. This isn't an automated process in most cases.
No, it's skilled artisan.
It sure is. I don't know a lot about it, but 8-way hand-tied upholstered furniture is something that a machine can't do that. Not the way that
Not the way
those
we
folks
can do it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And see, back then, during those closings, plant closings that you mentioned, parents were telling their children, "Don't go into furniture; they'll shut it down on you, and you'll be left hanging, hanging dry." And so, we tried to get the message out that furniture was still a good, viable industry to get in. You can make money. We have high school graduates and some non-high school graduates making $80,000-$90,000 a year today in upholstery.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 4-year degree people out there today not making that amount of money.
Oh, there's plenty of people who graduate from local schools,
Right.
universities, and colleges that
Right.
are working at like Hollister at the mall or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started that program, and oddly enough, one day I got a call from Representative Jay Adams, our representative. He was brand spanking new rookie in Raleigh, asking me if I wanted to be on the community college board. So I'm thinking, sure. I'm thinking, they meet at 4 o'clock in the afternoons over at CVCC, so I don't have to ask my boss, or I can just go to that. Don't need to really talk to my wife because she's at work. I'm at work. I'll get home in time for dinner. So I said, sure. So they sent me this online. It was 19 pages of stuff to fill out, and on the front page it said State Board of Community Colleges. So I picked up the phone and I called them. I said, "This is the State Board of Community Colleges." And they said, "Yeah, what did you think it was?" I said, "Well, I thought it was CVCC since I helped with the Furniture Academy. I thought you were throwing me a bone, Hey, yeah. Let's put him on the board." It wasn't. It was State Board. And I said, "Well, that's a whole different subject." I said, I need to make
4 o'clock.
I need to make a couple phone calls because Not only is it the local board is 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. This is every third Thursday and Friday. So my first call was my wife because I had helped get a bill passed in 1995 on drug test. And I got calls, not happy calls. And she said, "If you ever run for public office, I'll divorce you."
I thought you were going to say you were going to have trouble passing a drug test if they were going to drug test you. That's right.
No.
Okay.
No, that'd be the farthest thing from the truth. So
not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not, but
yes, there is.
Okay.
But
anyway,
yeah. So I called her and I said, present him. She goes, "Whatever you want to do, that's fine." I said, "Okay." So one down. I got to call my boss now in High Point, and he and I were a lot alike. He's a relationship builder. He knows everybody in Forsyth County. I know everybody in Catawba County, according to people.
Right.
The lore has that. And so I said, I've had this call and I have an opportunity. I said, "What's your take on it?" He goes, "Go for it. That'd be great." And I'm like, "Yes." So I called him up. That was in 2015. And so I'm on the State Board of Community Colleges. The governor has 10 appointees. The House has 4, the Senate has 4, and then we have the lieutenant governor, we have the state treasurer, and we have the commissioner of labor finishes out our board. And so I was so naive in the beginning, I didn't really think it was a political thing. But boy, it's a political thing.
I think most people don't really know. I mean, that, and I think, and I'd like your thoughts on this. Two boys go to state universities, and only after having kids and them getting a little bit older did I start looking into this idea of higher education and just where education is anyway. And I think community colleges get a bit of a bad rap from a lot of people, and it's a little bit of a really kind of like a hidden gem in terms of just the higher education equation and formula. Wouldn't you think?
If I knew now, or if I knew then what I know now, I would. And I never pushed our children to play this sport or not play this sport or go here or go there. Kind of let them make. We would guide them, but we wouldn't mandate things. But
yeah.
I might mandate community college first because.
Why is that?
Well, for a multitude of reasons. Community college pays $76 a credit hour to go to community college. It's probably triple that or greater. I have no idea, but $76 sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
And you can take, because regardless of where your children go to college, their first 2 years, they can get the same stuff at a community college, basically. Math, science, the basics, before they really declare a major and go into their major. So it just makes good economic sense. And me being the frugal guy that you said I was, it just makes financial sense to do that. And then if you aren't a college person like I was not, but I had parents that kept pushing, and I finally went, there's other opportunities galore at a community college. Furniture academy, hairdressers, welders. One of our biggest problems in the community college system is you can't keep faculty, because if I'm the faculty person making $50,000, $60,000, and I'm training you to be a welder, and before your semester's up, you get a job at Duke Energy making $75 an hour or something, you're gone.
Yeah.
That hurts us as a community college because you left the program, you didn't finish. So it's a black mark on us. And what I'm
you
trying
left it for a success story.
Yeah. And what I'm trying to do, and what we're trying to do as a board, is trying to say, don't criticize us for that, because he went on to greater pastures.
Yeah. So
we
is
did
there a
him
way
right.
to categorize that? I would think there'd be a way to categorize that, to say this isn't like an attrition. This is a placement sort of score.
Yeah.
I mean, we should talk to somebody on the board about that.
I know some people.
Yeah. I think that'd be a good idea.
Like, should be a camera in the back of that car.
Yeah. Exactly right. No, but really, I mean, isn't there a way to evaluate that
Yeah, and see, colleges are we're funded on FTE, which is full-time equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's butts in the seat.
Yeah.
If you don't have butts in the seat, you don't get funding. And then we get funding in arrears from the General Assembly, which really doesn't make sense to me either. You wouldn't run your household budget that way. Let's go spend a lot this year, and then we'll set our budget for what we spent this year.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of, in essence, what we're doing. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. But, again, I really had no idea I had no idea what I was getting into. The reason why I did it, I was, one, honored that he asked me, and two, following in my father's footsteps for state board. So I get emotional.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, it's great to have that kind of influence in your life. And then what I think is pretty cool, as long as we've known each other, is to see that kind of servant leadership as something that's passed down, not just to Thomas, but also to Will and just the people that you get to interact with.
Yeah.
It's a pretty special thing to see.
Well, I absolutely love it. We have we have 58 community colleges across our state, from Murphy to Manteo. We always hear Murphy to Manteo. Mm-hmm. But it's true, north and south. And there is a community college within 30 miles of 97% of the population in the state. So you think about that. Here in Hickory, how long does it take you to Catawba Valley Community College? Not long.
Right.
Just up the road to Caldwell Community College, just west of Western Piedmont Community College, just east of Mitchell Community College, just south of Gaston Community College. We're like a hub in all those community colleges just in our area. Mm-hmm. As you move out into the more rural areas, it's still there, and they have multi-campuses. So they might have their main campus here and another campus in another community. So the community college system is one of the best kept secrets in the state that we're trying to make not the best kept secret.
Yeah.
Because we are the economic engine of our state. So you could ask Scott Millar at EDC, when a company comes and talks about moving into our area, the first people that are at the table, community college. Because they want to know what our population is for workers, and then how are we going to train those workers?
Yeah.
So you pull on the community college.
I feel like community colleges have led the way from a business standpoint. This is totally anecdotal. I don't know if there's anything that supports my sentiment here, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. Community colleges seem to lead the way from a business standpoint of not dictating the curriculum and the services that they try to teach and train in, so much as going to the business community and saying, what do you need and then adjusting their curriculum and their classes to fit that need. Isn't
We are very nimble, and we do
But
that
most
all the
universities, even local ones, don't do that.
time. Well, they can't do that.
Okay.
I mean, they can to
They should.
They can to a small degree, but that's what we do. I mean, that's, you do financial planning. I make upholstery furniture. Community college system, that's what we do.
Is
You
reach
take a
the
little
businesses and the community first
Yeah.
and say, how do we serve you?
Yeah, just like we reached out to the community college for the Furniture Academy, and it's an employee-driven academy. I mean, you can ask Dr. Henshaw today. It's a driven by the employers, not the college. We're losing the director for over there. She's retiring at the end of the year, and we're trying to find a replacement. And we are the ones trying to find the replacement. I mean, the college has part of it,
the furniture industry are
Yeah.
the ones trying to find
Yeah.
the replacement.
Yeah.
Isn't there also a like a home builders program?
There's a construction academy.
Construction academy.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a not hospitality, but I believe it is hospitality.
it is.
And they're developing all across the state and all across the country. Ours has been renowned. People come from all across the state. We had one lady move from Minnesota, down here to Catawba County to take the classes. She was a architect, designer. She'd come into your home and say, "Get rid of those drapes.
Interior designer person.
Interior designer. Let's redo the sofa." And she was having to farm out all this work, and it was taken away from her income. She says, "I want to learn how to do it." So she spent a full year and went through every phase of the Furniture Academy. Now, we lost her back to Minnesota, but
Right.
she gained her experience from us to take back with her to where now she can go into your home and reupholster it herself. Doesn't have to farm it out. So I say we're changing people's lives, making a difference for sure.
Absolutely. And I think that they're, at least locally, we're both affiliated with Lenore Ryan University, and they're trying to build more bridges and connectivity with CVCC and with community colleges from the university standpoint.
Yes. We have the community colleges over the years since I've been there worked out articulation agreements with the university system, and Hope Williams is the president of the, God, she saw me saying this, I can't think of the name of it, but instead of like Peter Hans is president of the university system, we have an interim president, Bill Carver, of the community college system. Hope Williams is the president of the private college group.
Yeah.
And so the articulation agreement is fixed to where if you go to the community college and you go your 2 years or 3 years, in my case it was 3 or more, 2 years, and you graduate with an AA degree, that 2-year degree will transfer to any system in the state, any UNC system in the state.
Right.
And so you'll go in as a junior. So how much money would that put in your pocket if your kid did that?
But that's not automatically established with private universities at this point.
We've got some articulation agreements with the private ones, but I don't know the detail of them like I do the university.
Yeah. I believe that that's something that we're working on,
Yeah.
at least from the local university.
Yeah.
So,
But, Dr. Henshaw and Dr. Witt have both communicated some agreements with, say, the nursing program.
Exactly.
Lenore Ryan's a great 4-year degree in nursing. Catawba Valley has a great 2-year program in nursing. So if you're fine with the 2-year, which that's fine, or if you want to advance into the 4-year degree, then there's an agreement between our two schools here to where you can do that. I don't know the detail of it, but it's a pretty good gig.
that's great.
Yeah.
So this has been a passion of yours for 7 years or so, 7 or 8 years.
Well, my term is a 6-year term.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Senate. And so in 2015, I got the nod to do it. And then just last year, my 6-year term was up, and I got reappointed by the House for another 6-year term.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so I'm in my 7th year.
Well, now you can really shake some stuff up. You've already you've gone through the initial stages, and now you can really start pushing.
Yeah, well, I hold, I'm the vice chair of the state board. I chair our personnel committee, which hires all the presidents in the system. Excuse me. I chair the Legislative Affairs Committee. I chair the Staff Person of the Year Committee for the 58 colleges. So I got my finger in the middle of a lot. But it's all about the students. But politics seems to always jump in there because we're all political people. I mean, the board is there because of the politics.
Yeah.
I've never considered myself a politician or a political guy. You know, I like it. I got a little interest, but I don't give hundreds of thousands of dollars to campaigns and things like that. So I can tell you the first time I went to the board meeting, everybody was either the Honorable so-and-so. They were an ex-senator, an ex-House member, or Dr. so-and-so because, you know, they got the high degrees. And I'm thinking, here I am, spent 7 great years in college, you know.
7 of my finest years.
And one of the guys' family started LabCorp.
Yeah. He's doing okay.
Yeah. And others, you know, own construction companies. And that's where I came up with it. I'm just a factory worker.
Factory worker.
Yeah.
Well, along those lines, let me read something to you. Because when I found out about this as a friend and as someone who looks up to you, and you've given me great advice and counsel through the years, you and your family, this was something that I was incredibly proud of. And it says, so when you consider yourself just a factory worker, among the honors and awards the governor of North Carolina can bestow, none is more valued than the Order of the Longleaf Pine. Since its creation in 1963, it's been presented to honor persons who have a proven record of service to the state of North Carolina and to others as a gesture of friendship and goodwill. Upon being named to the Order of the Longleaf Pine, the honoree receives a certificate by which the governor confers upon the recipient the rank of Ambassador Extraordinary Privilege to enjoy fully all rights granted to members of this exalted order, among which is the special privilege to propose a special toast to North Carolina, which I think is you're in pretty good company here. You just received this award this past year, a few months ago, and Maya Angelou, a handful of folks involved in NASCAR, Billy Graham, Andy Griffith, Michael Jordan, Coretta Scott King, Bob Timberlake, Oprah's on the list.
Dean
Smith.
One of my heroes.
One of your heroes. Also Mike Krzyzewski recently.
Maybe
one
of
your heroes.
I got mine first.
But that was a surprise to you and probably a pretty special moment for just a factory worker. Tell me a little bit about that.
It wasn't a surprise. It was a shock.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound bad when I say this, but, you know, for years you hear people getting the Longleaf Award. And it's usually people that are retiring from government or dead. You know, they died and they give them this honorarium. And I used to think, why would you give such a high award to somebody that retired working in government? Because they got paid all those 30 years. So why would you reward them? Now, that sounds terrible because I'm thinking that award, before I got it, I said this, and I'm still going to stick by it. It's for people that don't get paid that do service to the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
I think it means more in that sense.
Yeah, that the reason the recipient is getting the award is not because of the things they've done professionally.
Yeah,
but
and
it's
gotten
because
paid
of the things
for
that they've done in service to the state.
And did not get paid for.
Yeah.
And so, and a friend of mine that's on the Board of Governors, Philip Byers, and then Tommy Luckadoo here that lives in Hickory. We're from Forest City, and we're the Forest City Mafia because back when we were growing up, all the people like us now were the movers and shakers of the town, and we called them the Mafia. I mean, they truly weren't bad people, but that's what we called them. So then we were the Junior Mafia. Well, now we're the Mafia, And so we used to say, if we ever get this, we'll have to have our celebration in downtown Forest City and make a big to-do out of it. Well, Philip got one a while back from Pat McQuarrie, and then I got mine, and we're still waiting on Tommy. But so I'm sitting at a board meeting. It was in August, sitting in the board member. And the board, it's a horseshoe. And at the front table, we have the chief of staff, me, the vice chair, the chair, the president, and the attorney. That's the head table. And then you got 2 long tables going down, and that's the board. And then at the back, there's chairs for audience. And, we have a lot of the presidents come to our board meetings and different people. So the president of some college, I can't remember one right now, was getting up and making a little presentation, telling about her school. And I was listening. And then when she sat down, I started doodling, I was in between.
Yeah.
So I doodled. And our chairman, who's directly to my right, said, at this time we're going to deviate from the program, and we have a special award that we're going to recognize. So,
and you're given the agenda ahead of time. You know what's going to be talked about.
Oh, we have meetings on what we're doing.
Yeah.
And this wasn't on the...
So you knew something.
I'm thinking, well, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, this could be interesting.
And I'm still doodling.
Okay.
And I just happened to look up, and Laura, my wife, had escorted me to this particular meeting. She's been to 2. This was her second. But she was coming the month before, and we couldn't make it work out, so she came this one. Still unbeknownst to me that she was coming for a purpose. And so when the chairman says, I looked at it, and I knew Laura was here, but I looked up and I thought I saw Robin, Thomas's fiance, who works 2 doors down at the General Assembly.
Right, so it wouldn't have been unusual for her to be there.
Well, a little bit, but our office is on the same Jones Street.
Okay.
With the General Assembly, and I'm thinking, we just had dinner last night. What's she doing here? Kind of what I'm thinking in my head. And then I saw some senior staff that used to be on our staff that are now at the UNC system, and one's at East Carolina, and the other's at UNC system. I'm like, what the world? And I looked at the chief of staff next to me over here and said, what the hell's going on? And she goes, like that. Uh-huh. And I'm thinking. So then he calls the chairman, says, I'd like to call Joe Friday to the lectern. And I went back and watched because it's a YouTube live feed,
Yeah.
And I went back and looked at it. When he said Joe Friday, I went, just like that. I mean, that quick. And I'm like, Joe Friday? Joe Friday was one of my college roommates at Lenore. And I'm like, the heck Joe Friday doing here? Then I saw Thomas back there and some other people. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? But then he started reading that little paragraph that you just read. And then he named a few of the people. And when he did, I just started, I'm a basket case.
You've put it together.
Damn, I'm getting this. I'm getting a long leaf pint. I mean, why else would he be here? And I mean, I'm just beside myself. And I'm sitting over there thinking, oh, God, I'm going to have to get up and I'm going to have to talk. And this isn't good. I mean, it's fabulous, but it isn't good. And so, and he, read over and he goes, and so on behalf of the governor of North Carolina, Governor Roy Cooper, I bestow long leaf pine, Bill and Bray or something. So I had to get up. Well, all the board members stood up in class because they didn't have a clue either. There's nobody in the room had a clue except family and the people that were there. And I got up to the lectern, and I'm like, so during the meetings, I get up twice and give my reports 2 different times. So I'm always getting up, going up to the main lectern, talking. I got up, I said, this is the first. I'm speechless.
That's great.
And I truly was speechless. There were so many things going through my head that I'm thinking, I couldn't talk. And Joe Friday came up, and we hugged, and he said, Laura was part of it, and Thomas was part of it, and I'm like, I just, and I had a standing ovation, and they were clapping, and they were just standing there, and I'm like, sit down, sit down. I mean, it was the most special day. That's all I can say. And I get emotional now when people, and you think about it, it's a big deal, but it's really not that big a deal. I mean, and here I am, a factory worker from Forest City getting this award. Unbelievable.
Well, I'm awfully proud of you. And
Thank you.
You are a tremendous resource to our community and to a lot of people that we both know and care a lot about. And you've got a great support system, and you surround yourself with good people, and you deserve it.
Well,
it's just really special.
I was trying to figure out, I've known people to get it, but I really didn't know how you get it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
right.
What do you do to get it? Because, I've been all over the state. I've been 46 out of the 58 colleges, so, I've made my rounds. But I'm thinking, what do you do? And so I found out later that it's a letter writing campaign. Like you have to go get 4 sponsors, or I don't know what they're called, but people to write a recommendation letter. And I'm like, whew, that's a task. And come to find out,
Wonder how many you had to get before you got 4 good ones.
exactly.
We got more letters for this.
Yeah.
Now,
it's
only
McBrayer,
4 of them were good, but we had 38 letters. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, so come to find out, Peter Hans, who is the president of the UNC system, who I helped hire at the community college system.
Right.
He stayed for 2 years, and then he went to the UNC system, and we're close to this day. And so come to find out, he wrote a letter of recommendation. So that's a pretty high-powered person in the state to recommend me. And then the other one was MC Belk Pylon. MC is chairman of the board of the John M. Belk Foundation, and they're great supporters of the community college. Mm-hmm. They spend a lot of money on us, help us a lot, care about. They started My Future NC,
right.
trying to get 2,000. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but they were instrumental in that. She serves on that board, many boards, and she wrote a letter. My boss wrote a letter, and my boss is funny because he's in the Hall of Fame of SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management.
Okay.
Which is a big deal. I think that's really a bigger deal because his peers voted on him to be in the Hall of Fame. I had a governor, one person.
Right.
That's why I think it's a bigger deal for him. But, he wrote a letter. And then our old State Board of Affairs guy that left us, and he's at East Carolina, works for the chancellor at East Carolina, who we're stay close with, wrote a letter. So those were 4 I hadn't read the letters. I don't know what he said, but they must have made up a lot of good stuff.
Do you think will they give them to you? Do you think you'll be able to get them at some point?
Thomas may have them, my son. I don't know. And here's the really cool part. So I've seen people get these awards on their front porch step with the newspaper taking a photo.
Yeah.
Thomas made the suggestion, why don't we do it at this next state board meeting in front of all his peers and colleagues?
That's a good idea.
Oh, awesome.
That's a good idea.
Great idea.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. And, I still think, why me? But I'm glad it was me. Don't get me wrong. And I'm honored. So
that's very cool. One of the great characteristics of a servant leader is a humble spirit. And that's something that you have and you have always had. And so, very cool. Very, very cool. And thank you for sharing that with us. And
sorry to get emotional.
No, I think it's absolutely fine and well-deserved. Before we go, I wanted to switch gears a little bit. I have a couple of questions for you. And one of them, I'd like to talk to folks about just kind of the intersection of finances and just their view of certain financial details of their lives. And so I want to talk to you about that. But before we do, you've been involved in the sort of backbone of manufacturing in our area in furniture. You're involved in the education of the future of our area in community colleges. What do you see just in general? What do you see sort of the future of Hickory and Catawba County right now? How do you feel about where things are and where things are going?
I feel absolutely wonderful about it.
Okay.
There's a lot of naysayers. I remember when we put the sales uptown, the $1 million sales where they weren't $1 million. But look at all the people that enjoy those summertime farmers market. I mean, it's a great piece added to our landscape in Hickory. The City Walk, a lot of naysayers. Why are you going to spend money on the City Walk? Those arches, dumbest thing I've ever heard. Well, ended up they failed, but it's a touchy one.
It's a different one.
Yeah, but it adds to this community. The thing, Fred would kill me saying this, but Appalachian coming into town, that's huge. That's a state institution. Where Lenore is a private institution, and then we have the community college. My goal is to try to get all three to work together.
Sure.
In unison somehow. All the things that the city's doing, all the things with economic development, in conjunction with Scott Millar and the EDC, the Trillium properties over there. I mean, people are looking at Catawba County. The state of North Carolina is one of the top states in the country, if not the top, for businesses coming in because of our tax structure and all. And so, the things that we started I didn't have anything to do with, but our city leaders at the time, it's coming to fruition, and I see great things in the future, and people are moving here. You know where I live. The golf course is turned into a 320 houses or something. Yeah. And apartments are going up, and housing are going up. And the good thing about being on the planning board, it gives me a little bit of a touch to where I can have a part of the controlled growth, because you just don't want to explode.
Right.
It's got to be controlled growth. And I think I get to play a part in that, being on the planning board. But I love Hickory. I love North Carolina.
Yeah, there's no place like it.
I always say a day out of North Carolina is a day wasted. As a matter of fact, I would like to present this to you.
Oh, boy.
And you can hang it in your office, or you can hang it on a tree.
Look at that. You do always say that.
I had those made in 2020.
A day out of North Carolina is a day wasted.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
And I put my name on it and the date, and I gave a lot away in 2020, and then I took a little sabbatical, and then I've just started back up and got new ones.
Well,
and
that's sweet. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, that's good.
For what it's worth.
Right. Well, who paid for them? Did you get a sponsor or something to do that?
That would be me. That would be me.
Speaking of who paid for them, we do give you a lot of crap about your spending habits, so to speak. You introduced me to one of my heroes who has had a significant impact in the type of work that I do for my clients, and that's Dave Ramsey. So you've always been a big family budget guy, and taking care of your finances has always been really important. And you've passed that on to your kids, and I know that's been a big part of just kind of how you operate your household, or how you help operate your household. We know Laura actually operates your household, but I'm sure you help. But from a financial planning standpoint, tell me what's one of the best pieces of financial advice you've ever been given, or maybe the best financial decision you've ever made?
The best decision, going back to Dave Ramsey. I was turned on to him many years ago. I don't do everything he says. People say I'm tight. I don't make a lot of money, so I have to be. I mean, I have to be conservative in my spending.
Yeah,
all. It's not that
you don't have to be. We all have choices.
We do have choices, and that's one thing I used to tell my children. Life is full of choices. Make sure you make the right one. And so I used to be a disciple of Dave Ramsey, and one thing that he taught me is, when you get life insurance, for instance, versus term life insurance, the difference. Mm-hmm. And so he taught me the difference. What I used to always tell my boys too, that, when you go to make a purchase, ask yourself two questions. Is it a want or is it a need?
Yeah.
Now you can drill that down to where you really don't need anything. I mean, if you could not buy another thing today, you could live a long time.
Sure.
With the food in your house, the clothes in your closet, et cetera, et cetera. But day in and day out, is it a want or is it a need? So what I did when I had a mortgage, somebody had told me that and I don't know the proper terminology, but let's just say the mortgage is $1,000 because I'm not an education person, so I don't want to think too much. So you got $1,000 mortgage.
Round numbers.
Yeah, round numbers.
That's fine.
So you have $1,000 mortgage. If you pay $500 of it in the middle of the month and $500 in the end of the month, because most people just pay $1,000 the end of the month or the first of the month, whenever your payment's due. They just pay the one lump $1,000. It would reduce your term by 8 years or something. And I'm like, let's do it. And then let's say your amount was $1,000 and you could afford a couple hundred more. Then add a little couple more hundred more to it. So we, exhausted our mortgage.
You knocked that.
Not in a short amount of time. It felt like a lifetime. But,
yeah.
But we don't have a mortgage. Yippee.
Yeah. One of the caveats there is you got to be really clear about making sure that the extra payment goes to principal only.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So,
and I did
the mortgage companies, they don't really guide you in that direction.
Well, at first, you're right. At first, it didn't do that. Mm-hmm. And I looked and I caught that, and I'm like, so I had to renegotiate.
Yep.
Good point.
Yep. That's
so.
Good
That advice. I mean, those are, and I thought, I've never done it, but I thought, what if you buy something and it's on sale, and let's say you save $10 on whatever it is you buy. If you took half of the $10 that you saved and you put it in a bank, in a savings, every time you purchased something that was on sale, whatever the amount you saved, divide it by 2 and put that amount in the bank. Just think how much money that would get over time.
Absolutely. Compound interest.
I think my son Thomas took my advice on that. Not so sure Will did. But anyway, so that would be my answer, I guess, for what that's
What
worth.
about one of the worst financial decisions you've ever made? Can I guess first?
Yeah.
I don't know if you did this, but I bet if you did, you would consider it one of the worst.
Okay.
Did you ever buy a brand new car?
Yes.
You did? Oh, no. I'm shocked. A little bit. I'm a little bit shocked.
You never buy a new car.
You should never buy a brand new car. Right?
Never
That,
buy
I would. I would. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have.
But I went years before I bought a new car.
Okay.
Matter
So
of fact,
this was a more recent decision.
Oh, well, no, it was 1989.
Oh, okay.
But that was years. Remember, I graduated high school in 76.
Okay.
And so my wife and I were married, just married. That's another mistake. You get married your first year and you go out and buy a new car and a new home. Mm-hmm. So we fell in love with a Honda Accord. Glenn Jarrett up in Morgan had it. Went up, and he was a neighbor of ours.
Okay.
So if I needed oil change, we would switch cars, and he'd take my car to work, and I'd drive his car.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty good deal. And that was in 1989. I don't remember what month I bought it, but the very next issue, the 1990, had a different body style, different look, and I'm like, man, that's sweet. I'm already getting tired of the 89. Let's trade it in on the 90. Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid, as Dave Ramsey would say.
Yeah.
But I did it. I bought a brand new 89. In 3 or 4 months, I traded it. He says when you buy a new car and you drive off the lot, just throw money out the window.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
that's basically
pretty
what
much
you do.
what happens.
And so, young and dumb, let's get that 90. It's prettier, better, faster, and whatever. And so, went and bought a 90 3 months later. Live and learn. I don't think I bought another used new car until 2014. My mother passed away in 2014, and she had a little money, and we split between the kids. And my wife says, "Can we not just get a new car?" I'm like, "I don't need a new car. You don't ever buy a new car."
She didn't say you. She said we.
Yeah. How long do I drive a car till the wheels fall off? We're not the like golf clubs get the next
Right,
greatest thing,
right.
greatest car. Did that 1 year and hadn't done it since. So I bought a brand new Honda in 2014 that we're still driving today. It only has like 75,000 miles on it. But I've always driven the old hand-me-down.
So was my guess right? Was that maybe the worst financial decision?
That's pretty
you've ever
bad.
made?
Yeah, I can't think of anything worse.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
not a good one.
That's nothing to be
not a
proud
good one.
of.
You're probably going to retire sometime from work. How do you have retirement plans, and how important are? I think this would be maybe a secret bit of guidance from you for our vast listening audience, which has got to be in the. I don't know what's less than dozens. I don't know what it is. It's got to be single digits.
The single digits.
Yeah. How important are naps at work in terms of just work balance and being successful in the workplace? Because that's another thing you're known for, I think.
Naps are absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
I've napped for, Winston Churchill napped.
Okay.
Don't know if you know that bit of history, but
I
you
did
can
not
look
know
that
that.
up. He would take naps, power naps.
Okay.
That would, take him through freshness of the afternoon.
Wow. He was pretty successful.
He's pretty successful. And I thought, if he can take a nap, by gosh, I can too.
Ryan Edwards takes naps also.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So I started taking naps, started taking driveway naps, if you'll recall.
That seemed a little dicey, though,
Well,
to
I
just
would-
lay down in your driveway.
Well,
in the
but
middle
it
of the day.
started because I was cutting the backyard or the front yard, and as I was passing to one yard to the next, I would just lie down and take a little siesta. That was not good because since then, my good friend Dr. Johnson down off Tate Boulevard took a few cancers off the top of my forehead and over here on the side of my nose, and he loves me when I come in.
Oh, yeah.
Dermatologists love redheaded, freckled, white guys like me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I still take a nap, and it was funny because my last doctor appointment, my wife says, ask him about apnea against sleep depression.
Sleep apnea?
Sleep apnea, yeah. That's what I was trying to think of. So I go through the checkup, and everything's fine. He goes, you have any questions? I said, well, Laura, and she used to work for him. He said, Laura thinks I have sleep apnea. He goes, well, why does she think that? Because you snore? And I said, well, snore probably, but I stop breathing also during my sleep. And I said, I take a nap every day. And he goes, really? He says, tell me how that works. I said, it's simple. I go turn the blind on my office door. I close the door. I lock it, lie down on the floor, put my feet up on a chair, have a little red Delta blanket, and I sleep from 12:30 to 1. It's religious.
Every day.
Every day. I don't go out for lunch. I bring my own lunch. That's another way you can save money. Pack your own lunch.
Yes.
I've done that for years. And so I said, I could go out in your lobby right now with people sitting out there and the lights on, and I could lie down on the floor and be asleep in 5 minutes. He goes, you have sleep apnea. So he ordered me a study.
Why did he say that?
Because that's just not normal. That's just not normal.
Okay.
So he says, I'm going to order you a sleep study. So the sleep study people called me, and the guy says, I'm not going to mention the name of the business, of course, but he goes, well, your insurance won't pay for it. And I have Cigna. We're self-insured at work, but Cigna's our carrier. And he goes, they won't pay for it. I said, well, I'm thinking they probably will, but okay. And he goes, no, you got to do a home study first. And then after that result, then you come in and do an overnight, because you go in at 8 at night, and you spend the night, and you get out like at 5:30 in the morning. It's weird sleeping in the bed, and cameras on you, and all this garp on your face. And so he called me back, and he goes, so we need to get that home study. I said, well, no, I want to do it. He says, Cigna doesn't do that. They don't approve that at all. Well, little did he know, I do benefits at work. And our third-party administrator, president of our third-party administrator, takes me golfing to Grandfather Mountain on occasion, and we're pretty close. And, I can pick up the phone and call him. And so I called him. I told the guy at the other place, I said, just give me the codes that you're going to use. They code. I said, give me the codes that you're going to use if I were to come in. So he sent me the codes. So I called my friend. He goes, you can go in there. We'll make that happen. And he did. So when the guy called me back to schedule my appointment, he goes, I don't know who you know or what you did, but this is the first time ever Cigna has paid for an in-house study. I said, hey. He goes, I don't know what it is. I said, well, I told you that I thought I could get this done.
Yeah.
And I did. So yeah, naps have diminished. I didn't have one today, actually.
Okay.
And I went out to lunch.
You seem very spry. And
yeah, well.
You're good.
Yeah, I'm much better.
Not off right now.
I'm telling you, they say that the sleep deprivation, I can't say the word, it's like running a marathon at night because your heart stops.
Shoo.
You quit breathing, and then you start back breathing. And so depending on how many events is what they call it, the more events, the worse you are. And so you wake up, you think you slept, but you really didn't get good sleep. Now I'm dreaming. I'm having dreams. I mean, because I have a CPAP machine.
Well, let's not get into the dreams.
Well, I won't get into the dreams, but I'm, it's pretty cool.
That's great. So my original question, thank you for all the nap suggestions.
Well, you brought it up. Yeah.
Right. My original question, though, what are your retirement plans? Do you know?
People ask me that all the time, and I think, do I look that old? You know, that's what I'm thinking. I think I don't look 64. I'll be officially retirement age in January of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
That's 66 and 8 months. You know, that's how they do it. And when people ask me the question, I say, first of all, I love what I do, and they love what I do. So why do I need to quit?
Yeah.
I mean, if I was miserable, I'm getting more miserable just because of the conditions of employment in the area. But I love what I do. I love Lexington Home Brands. Great company to work for. Been with them 28 years, so why quit? But I have thought about when I do quit to get a job that's like a fun job. I don't know what that is, but a fun job that, you know, make a little bit of money and really have fun doing it.
Well, I have a prediction.
What's that?
And we'll close with this. Grandbabies will probably change your mind. That's my prediction. Because that'll be a fun job, and that'll be something that you will pour yourself into like you poured yourself into everything else.
Probably so.
Whenever that starts happening, we can revisit this conversation.
Yeah. So Thomas is up on deck first.
Yep. You got a couple
in December
coming up.
And then we'll be on deck in May.
Yep.
And I don't, you know, again, I never pushed them to play this sport or that sport or to do this or to do that, and I'm not going to push them to have babies. You know, if they want them, they can have them. If they don't, it's fine. Whatever.
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
Yep. Well, thanks again for being here. Just as a reminder for anybody tuning into our Southeast Retirement Planners podcast, you can find out all the information on our website at www.seretirementplanners.com. Be sure to look at our YouTube channel and check us out on Spotify. All that information is on our website, and like and subscribe to those things on whatever platforms you'd like to listen to them. But thanks again for joining me, Bill. I really appreciate the conversation. You're a great resource to our community. We're lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have you as a friend. So just really appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Thank you a lot.
Thanks. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member of FINRA, SIPC. Southeast Retirement Planners is not affiliated with LPL Financial or registered as a broker-dealer or investment advisor.